Welcome, everyone. It's so nice of you to stop by and visit with me today. I am Ardelia Millard Drace, and I am honored to make your acquaintance. I was born in Rhode Island, and my father passed on when I was still a young girl. When I was but 7 years old, my mother remarried Mr. Daniel Jennings. Mr. Jennings decided to move here to Michigan before the Civil War broke out, and we moved here to Rochester. He opened up a foundry in 1859 and was a prominent man about town, serving the first village council before the town was incorporated. I lived a somewhat privileged life as a stepdaughter of a man of such importance. In 1867, I accepted a marriage proposal of another prominent man about town, Mr. William Drace. Mr. Drace was the nephew of William Barnes, who owned the paper mill in town. My Mr. Drace served in the employ of his uncle until he succeeded in the presidency of Mr. Barnes' mill. The paper mill was such an important part of Rochester's history, employing several of its citizens for several generations. Like my stepfather, my Mr. Drace was also a civic-minded man, serving the village council. So I became used to dealing with people who wielded great power and influence in this community. Just 3 years after we were married, we were blessed with one son, Frank. Frank grew into a fine young man. He started out in the grocery business where he had earned a tidy living for himself. Eventually, in 1900, he was able to earn enough money to go into business with Mr. Albert Griggs, one of the brothers who owned the grain elevator here in town. Frank and Mr. Griggs saw an opportunity for housing, as many people were coming in to work on the inner urban line in the sugar beet factory. They purchased the old Albertson farm on the north end of town and decided to plot the land for the many workers who were flooding into Rochester. They thought this would be a good investment, which it was. So many people were coming here to work in these industries. Before they began to file the plat for the land, Frank and Mr. Griggs decided that they would name the streets in honor of their families, as was the custom at that time. One was named Drace in honor of our family, another was named Griggs in honor of Mr. Griggs' family, and the final was named Albertson in honor of the family whose farm had been sold to plat the land. So I beg of you, the next time you pass by Drace Street in Rochester, that you remember the family for which it was named. For my part, I departed this vale of tears in my 60th year after a bout with uremic poisoning. Such a fate was not at all uncommon in my day. You see, our doctors knew nothing of disease and infection as yours do today. Such a fate was always a possibility. But I fear that I've spent too much time speaking of myself, so I direct your attention to Mr. Yates, where he is waiting for you.